change is inevitable. If you're in a business or a nonprofit, change is going to happen. It's a necessity for successful business. And managing that change is important too. So change initiatives are something that we hear about a lot. A lot of them fail. But today I'm going to be talking with Esther Lok from a New York nonprofit, Bridging Access to Care. She is their chief of staff, and she was instrumental in bringing about this change initiative with inviteCHANGE. So let's jump right in with Esther. And let's start with the first question of just what is a change initiative?
Well, first of all, Brighton, thanks for having me. Change initiative in at Bridging Access to Care. What we've been trying to do is to become a trauma-informed organization, and by that it means that there's fundamental change of how we not only work with our clients, but work with each other, with our staff, with our stakeholders.
Great. So as I understand, this was something that your CEO, kind of an effort that your CEO maybe started, had an idea of, but it wasn't necessarily trickling down into the organization. So tell us like the before, what was going on at the organization?
Yeah, so our current CEO, Nadine Akiami, she has been with the agency for 25 years. Before she was promoted to the CEO position, she was the deputy executive director, and she started introducing the trauma-informed care principles and concepts roughly about in 2012. So it's more than 10 years ago. She was overseeing specific programs and she did a pilot project. And then when she became the CEO of Bridging Access to Care in 2019, she made it a major project. But soon after she became the CEO, COVID hit, and she realized that she really needed more support. So she created the chief of staff position, and I became the agency's first chief of staff. To be a trauma-informed organization, her vision is that we don't just make sure people complete the 101 training, but we really want to practice the values and make sure that the principles are incorporated in how we not only how we work with clients, but also how we do supervision and management and our decision-making process. So when I joined the agency in July 2020, that was a mandate for me to help her lead the internal committee and then also represent the agency to work with a capacity building provider that's based in New York that specifically help organizations to become more trauma informed.
Okay, so you were working with another organization. How did inviteCHANGE get involved? How did you choose to work with inviteCHANGE?
So our work with the other organization, Chickatelli Associates, the work with them focused mainly on making sure that all the staff are trained about what trauma is, and have the ability to deliver brief trauma education. And then we also talk about verbal de-escalation and vicarious trauma. But what I realized was that we're missing the leadership part conversation in that. And then also when I think about how do I really incorporate the core principles of trauma-informed care in our supervision and management, the project that we were involved in wasn't really designed that way. So I began looking into some of the training and coaching and leadership training opportunities that might be beneficial to our executive team. I came across this, a friend of mine was interviewed by Eldra Jackson III for his Inside Circle podcast. And from there, I discovered his interview with Janet. And I was listening to the podcast and to Janet talking about being a compassionate leader, and I felt such strong synergy of the work that she's doing, and I felt that she is going to be the kind of coach that I would like to introduce to the executive team. So I reach out and then we began working together in January 22.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we can tell that you're in New York there. We've got the sirens going by. So very, very real there. Not where Janet is. I think she's out on an island or something like that. So tell me about working with inviteCHANGE. Was it virtual? Was it in person?
We had mostly virtual meetings, and but Janet and Sarah came to spend some time with us in person twice, I believe, and so that was good. Um, because when we engaged with Janet and Sarah at inviteCHANGE, it was still the we're still in the middle of the pandemic, so a lot of the work that we did was virtual, and but it doesn't really create any issue with us. The first thing we did with inviteCHANGE was to complete an ecosystem assessment, like really look at broadly where we are at. And then after that, we had a debriefing of the findings. And then from there, we started. We also completed the Teal 365 assessment for each of the
Mhm.
executive team member. There were four of us, and then we talked about the results. We started with team coaching, and then we started individual coaching while we're also doing team coaching. So it's like multi-level coaching work that was happening at the same time. Pretty intense in 2022 to do that level of work while the team was still, fairly new. We learned a lot in that process. We learned about not we not learn more about who we are as an individual, but we also learn about how our personality and tendency in terms of certain situation, how we make decision, has an impact in this particular group. It's all about functioning as a team. So you are in different team, you're gonna behave slightly, or the impact of your action will have a different impact. So we were learning about this, spending a lot of time talking. And through the team coaching, we developed the teaming agreement. And we decided to really make sure that the executive team, the four of us, practice using this teaming agreements before we rolled it out to our direct reports.
Mhm.
That is the leadership team, because we think that it's so important that we lead by example. So even though originally we wanted to move a little bit quicker to involve the leadership team in the process, at the end, inviteCHANGE perfectly understand. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. So take your time and to practice. And when you're ready, we will be ready for you.
Let's talk about maybe a little bit of the change that happened. And I know, as you said, it was maybe a little slower because we were in a pandemic and you were still delivering services to your clients, having some change at the top of the organization. But yeah, tell us how things changed and what impact this successfully implementing this change in initiative had on the organization.
So one example is that we were also dealing with a lot of changing COVID regulation testing and things like that. And then we were dealing with, staff have to, like, sick, they have to quarantine and all these stuff. So there's like, so that is an environment that communications was not ideal. I think one change that we see happened as a result of our work with inviteCHANGE is that when it's about adopting the generative mindset, thinking that not only ourselves but others are whole, resourceful, capable, and creative, and that mindset has really allowed us to be more open to exchange and communications. And as a result of that, we are listening to more to our frontline staff and their concerns about the clients, their concern about the work environment, and what they are happy about, what they're not happy about. And these are very important when it comes to building a healthy organization culture, because staff turnover is expensive. We wanted to not just be a good service providers to our clients, but we also want to be an organization that we treat our staff and our co-workers right. And so it just opened up your mind, and now we see there's so many different possibilities of doing things, and people feel people feel heard, and it's important for staff retention. So I think that it's one really positive outcome from working with inviteCHANGE. It's the open exchange and open conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of like maybe building on that a little bit, you mentioned tilt and doing those assessments for, having people understand better who they are and how they interact with other people. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about how that went.
So I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm a very direct person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very data driven. I am good at execution. I guess that's why I'm the chief of staff, just to make sure project is going to happen, right? But I think what I realized in my tilt profile and the analysis with my coach is that I don't spend enough time listening to what other people's ideas may be. Like I have a very, and I also, my tendency is I prefer things to be done quickly and efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, I was born and raised in Hong Kong. It's busier than New York City. So everything needs to be fast and efficient.
So I am also, I think I tilt the same direction as you do. So is it safe to say that maybe the frontline staff, the people who are working with the clients, were maybe more amenable to the trauma-informed care, or maybe understood it better than the leadership team or the executives?
I think there are more trainings and technical assistance available for therapists and for frontline staff to implement trauma-informed care work, but there is not a lot when it comes to incorporating the principles into our management practices, into program operations, and into how we run the organization. So I think we're doing, because our CEO have a strong vision of becoming a trauma-informed care organization, it really gives a lot of support for us to explore different ways. And I'm just really happy and grateful to have found inviteCHANGE, because you hear leadership training and coaching, they all talk about being effective, but very few talk about raising compassionate leaders. And being compassionate is one of the core things that we must do when it comes to being trauma informed.
I guess this kind of follows on that pretty well, is if someone was thinking of hiring inviteCHANGE to do a change initiative, what would you say to them, or what's your opinion for someone else to work with inviteCHANGE?
I definitely think this is a super worthwhile investment from an organization perspective. I think it is particularly important to recognize that, especially every time you have a new member joining your leadership team, you in some way restart the team building process, and having someone outside as a facilitator to help you not only internally but also how yourself function in this particular group. It's helpful to have that level of advice and support and coaching. It's really important that the leader, the CEO of the organizations is on board of it, and then you have your highest level of your management team. If in our case is the C-suite are on board of that, because you're not going to get the result that you want to see, even with us, if not everyone is on the same page. I think change is something in particular that, because whatever change you're going to make, it's going to affect the organization. There might be some departments that will feel the change more strongly than the others, but having a unified voice and having a different perspective and different in leadership to really think through about the process is important. And invite change help us to look at the ecosystem of our organization. It helps us to really build a strong executive team so that we know how to work with our direct reports and the department level leaders. And then from there, if they are becoming stronger supervisors, we will have a stronger team on the ground to actually serve the people that we need to serve. I think we are beginning to see the triple effect of the benefits of really adopting the generative mindsets here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Is there anything else that we missed that you want to share with folks?
I think one thing to add is it's much better to be mindful and take one step at a time in terms of building a strong team than trying to roll out change immediately, because I think we have made some of those mistakes as well, and then we went back to first step after 6 months. It's not worth doing it. I think the open exchange and open communication as a result of this generative mindset really help us to not only have a stronger management team, but also allowed us to learn about issues before they become catastrophic. So it really has an impact on our risk management and quality improvement initiatives. It's all because that we change our approach, how we work with our staff and how we work with each other.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with all of us today. And thank you for watching this.
Thanks for having me.
And if you are interested in working with Invite Change, there's of course going to be a link down below that you can use to get in contact with Janet or Sarah or someone from the team, and they can help your organization go through a successful change initiative. Thanks for watching.